Hey, it's Juck. The 2025 Buckeyes recruiting class could be a historic one, but there's something that they need to do to make sure it ends up number one in the country. We'll talk about it. Vegas odds for the national championship are changing. We'll take a look at who's up and who's down. National recruiting, where the Buckeyes stand, where's the enemy stand, all that and more. Let's get to the show. Thanks for clicking. He answered, but that was not. Now, he's full of shit. But I'm not ready to say it's going to happen this season. It's going to happen this season. Do whatever stupid deals you want to do with the most ridiculous buyouts in the world. And we won't even care. You'll get a total pass. You'll get a pass. Give us our jerseys back. It's our birthright. And welcome in. I know we're all really excited for the 2024 season. And why wouldn't we be? We're going to enter that season ranked in the top 3. And we just might be the odds-on favorite to win the national championship by the time it kicks. More to that in a minute. But we always like to keep our eye on recruiting, because we're football junkies around here. And I was thinking the other day about the battle that's coming up in 25 between Julian Sain, Aaron Nolan, and Lincoln Kineholes. Don't want to count him out yet for the starting quarterback position. And I think we can probably say, we think Sain or Nolan's going to win that battle. And that dude is going to be starting as a sophomore, which will be really interesting. But he's only got 1 year before the beast, the man, Bell Fountain's own Tavien St. Clair comes rolling into town with a body like we haven't seen since Terrell Pryor on a quarterback, a cannon for an arm, and something I don't know everybody knew he had. This dude is an accurate passer. He won the accuracy portion of a skills competition called the Next Ones competition in Las Vegas over the weekend, beating out the likes of quarterbacks from Michigan, Tennessee commits, commits all over the place, top-level guys, including the number 1 quarterback in the country, Bryce Underwood, out of Michigan, who's going to LSU. Sorry for your luck, Michigan. I think Tavien's better than that kid. I think Tavien's going to get a 5th star by the time this is done, and I think he deserves every bit of it. Not only that, but the dude is all Buckeye. If you read about him, He's talking about him and his family. They all talked, all of his family, that one of us is going to grow up to be a Buckeye. Like, that's the kind of kid this is. And man, it's going to be tough to keep that kid off the field. No matter how good Sain or Nolan is, if you got that guy behind him and the kind of jazz, the excitement that we feel when it's an Ohio kid is just a little bit extra, I don't know, man. Hey, good things. It's good all the way around. But really, really looking forward to that, and I would recommend that you go check out that video of Tavien St. Clair. 247 has it. If you Google 247 Tavien St. Clair, you will be able to find that video. So, also at that competition, of course, Buckeye commit number 1 or 2 recruit in the country, depending on what service you look at. Cornerback, Devin Sanchez was there. Trey McNutt, safety target from Shaker Heights and OSU Legacy, was there. In addition, Jamie French, the wide receiver that decommitted from Alabama that we're in on now, he has narrowed it down to Ohio State and Florida State right now. And Jamie French is a delight to watch. I mean, you want to talk about smooth and quick hands. He's not a massive receiver, but man, the dude is smooth. He's fast. He's got a nasty attitude. I mean, he's an attitude. And this guy is someone you should definitely check out, Jamie French. And what could we love more than Tavien St. Clair and Devin Sanchez being at a camp with Trey McNutt and Jamie French? Because it is clear, we've talked about this before, that Devin Sanchez and his parents and Tavien St. Clair are leading the charge to make this class special. And special they are. This class is loaded. I mean, I think the player average rating on this class is leading the country right now, if I'm not mistaken. I know, I'm positive they are. The player average rating is leading the country, and the class itself has 7 members right now, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into. So the Buckeyes have the ability to get the number 1 class this year. I really think they do. And the only thing that's going to hold them back is the thing that always holds them back in the final rankings, and the thing that Ohio State has been notoriously held back by, and a rule or a way they go about things that the top SEC schools just do not go about it. And I think it's time that they change their philosophy on it. Because if they're keeping score, we want to win. That's a quote from Urban Meyer talking about recruiting. And they're keeping score. We want the number one class. Number one is not just awesome because you get to brag you're number one. But that stuff means something to recruits. It means something the next year. It means something to the recruits that are in that class. It means something. It means something to us. And quite frankly, the solution is to quit hampering yourself with classes that are smaller than all the other contenders for that spot. Here's what I mean. I went back the last 4 cycles, and let's just compare. Who do we know are the big 3 in this time period? It's Ohio State, it's Georgia, and Alabama. Those are the 3 that when you get a top recruit who just kind of, does the generic, I don't care about where I'm going or who I was a fan of, I want to go to the NFL. I got Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State on my list. Where am I going to go? Okay? Those type dudes, that's where they go. Those 3 schools, we know that. So, last 4 cycles, Ohio State in the last 4 cycles has brought in 88 players. Alabama, 109 players. Georgia, 104 players. In 2023, Ohio State's class had 21 guys. Bama had 28. Georgia had 26. In 24, Ohio State had 22 guys. Bama had 28. Georgia had 28. If you look out at that 4-year cycle, they both had an entire class more recruits than Ohio State brought in. An entire class. They're getting 5 classes to Ohio State's 4, which means they can whiff on a lot more guys. A lot more guys can get injured and drain out of the program. It's a tremendous advantage that Ohio State is giving to them. Why? Well, look, it's part of the biz, man. You got to be dirty sometimes a little bit. It doesn't feel good. It feels awful. But it's also kind of fair now because these guys can go somewhere and play. What's Alabama and Georgia doing to keep their numbers under 85? They're going to the guys at the bottom of the roster, and they're filtering them out, okay? It doesn't look like you're going to play here. Things aren't looking well for you to progress to get time on the field. It might be your best avenue to go somewhere where you can play. I'll make a call for you. Where do you want to go? And the Buckeyes aren't embracing that because they're ethical. And it just feels dirty. It feels scummy. It's a scummy part of college football. But it's a little less scummy now than it used to be when the SEC used to do it. And these guys couldn't really go anywhere. They had to sit out a year to transfer. So, I mean, at least they can go somewhere now and play and actually hit the market and might even be able to get a couple NIL bucks. I mean, it works out better for everybody now. And I think that it's something that I don't want to be, I do. Look, it might sound bad. I don't care. I want them to have the same amount of people in the class as these guys because I don't want them to have an advantage on us anymore. The same reason I pumped my own money into NIL because I was sick of getting dog walked by the likes of Miami and Texas A&M in the NIL game. Okay, I don't want anybody else to have an advantage that Ohio State doesn't have. Put us on a level playing field and we'll compete with anybody at anything. No doubt. Put us at a disadvantage and we get clowned like I get clowned on Twitter every day when people, come and, these Michigan guys, they are so obnoxious, man. And we're going to get into that with recruiting. These guys are falling off a flipping cliff, man. I mean, it is over. We'll go through it all. But I did want to bring this up about the class sizes. Ohio State cannot finish number 1 in recruiting rankings unless they embrace getting bigger classes in here. They have to do it, or it's never going to happen for them. So just wanted to get that off my chest. I would love to hear your comments on that. So we got to keep in mind now, we're probably only, a couple years away before these guys are technically employees. And if they're employees, do you have an ethical problem with that? Do you have an ethical problem with it? As I'm stating it now, they're not technically employees, but if you're going to, you got 85 guys on scholarship. If you're going to number 78 on down and telling those guys, I don't think you're going to see the field here, are you doing them a favor or are you a monster? Now, they can still stay in school and be off the team. They still get to keep their scholarship if they don't want to play football, but they want to stay at school. But I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. I know it feels dirty. It feels dirty for me to say. But I don't want anybody to have an advantage. And that's just how it is, man. This is about Ohio State football, and I do not want anybody to have an advantage that we do not have. So, bigger classes, number one classes. We already know that we are scooping right into that power vacuum that Nick Saban left. We can see it plain as day. We know it's happening when we pull a recruit out of Birmingham, Alabama. Like, we know that the recruits are saying, Kalen DeBoer, you need to show me. Like, you got to show me what you're going to do before I'm going to commit to Alabama. Well, to do that, he's got to win. I don't know how, but somehow Alabama is the fifth highest on the Vegas odds to win the national championship. And I just cannot see that at all. I mean, what they've lost, they lost over 30 guys in the transfer portal with a brand new head coach, just getting acclimated to that whole area of the country, getting acclimated to a big-time program for the first time. Washington's big, but it's not a big-time blue blood program. Getting used to all the stuff that goes along with being the coach of a place like that, and getting used to a brand new roster. He lost his offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, who's been with them forever. He was going to come with him to Alabama. He just went and took the Seahawks job. It's just like there's no way I see any avenue that they got a tough schedule too. We should go over it. I'll put it up. They have a tough schedule. Lost his offensive coordinator, been with him forever. How in the hell their over-under games is 9.5. Look, we should do a segment on this. Now, 9.5 games mean they can only lose 2 games in this schedule. They can only lose 2 with a brand new head coach, brand new offensive coordinator, brand new roster for this guy. Jalen Milroe look, man, I know a lot of people think he's good. I'm not one of them. I know he got hot towards the end of the season, and I know Bill O'Brien, actually. I don't like Bill O'Brien, but Bill O'Brien got trashed because Jalen Milroe told the media that Bill O'Brien had said to him, I don't think you should be a quarterback. I think you should explore another position because you're a tremendous athlete. Now, everybody took that as a massive knock on him. It's not. We all see it. The guy doesn't throw the football like a quarterback, okay? He's a great athlete. That's what he is. But, I mean, if you look at the kind of quarterbacks that excel with Kalen DeBoer, it's not that. That's not the kind of quarterback he has. So, I mean, the whole thing just feels like a mess. It doesn't feel like a right fit. I don't see how it's going to happen for them there. And I definitely don't see how in the heck they are the fifth best odds to win the national championship. So, let's talk about those odds. Because we have some changes in the odds. Let me pull these up here for you guys. What we got here is MGM and Caesars Palace. So, MGM, Ohio State, is at plus 500, right behind Georgia at plus 350. So, second place odds in both. But at Caesars, this is shifted since the Chip Kelly hire. This was also Ohio State at plus 500. This has gone to plus 400. Georgia's plus 350. So we're talking neck and neck. Neck and neck. Because if you look at, there's the Longhorns are plus 800 way back there. And Caesars has Alabama 5th. They're 4th to win the national championship on MGM. That's nuts. That's bizarre. Caesars is definitely our buddy here because if you look here, I did a segment on Michigan's odds, right? I said in that segment, I think, and this was a ways back, I think that Michigan will enter the season with the lowest odds to repeat as national champions than anybody we can remember in recent memory. And right here, we're looking, they have the 8th best odds. The defending national champions, current national champion, Michigan Wolverines, they're not a true contender next year. In fact, I think when the odds come out for this and we do some comparison, we're going to see that they are the lowest odds of any champion in recent memory to go back-to-back. It's to win the national championship at plus 1,600. That's horrible. That's horrible. They're the defending national champion. And look, you try to talk logic with them, you've lost everything. You lost your head coach, your defensive coordinator, your strength coach, your defensive line coach, and you just lost Clinksdale, your cornerbacks coach. You got nobody. They got nobody. And they think it's just going to keep on rolling. Combine that with the NFL Combine invites just came out. For comparison, Ohio State had 8 Combine invites. Michigan had like 16 to 18. Let me check that. I want to make sure. 18. Michigan had 18 Combine invites. Like, that's what you're losing off your team. Along with half of your coaching staff and a rookie head coach trying to hire his first ever staff. First ever. Who has very little contacts in the business. Like, insane. And here, I mean, this reflects it perfectly. But as you can see, the discrepancies and how crazy it is that 3 of the 4 teams in the playoffs last year, in Alabama, Washington, and Michigan, lost their coaching staffs. That is insane. And that is why it's so hard to predict next season with those 3 teams. Because look at this discrepancy from MGM to Caesars, 2 massive players in Vegas. You've got Michigan at plus 1,100 on this one and plus 1,800 over at Caesars. That is a huge discrepancy. Huge discrepancy. And I think I was proven right when I said that. Now, we got to go compare to the other ones. I'm not going to do that research. If somebody wants to do it, I'll be happy to spit it out here. But until somebody proves me wrong, I'm going to say I was right. Michigan is coming into this season with the worst odds in the history of college football to repeat after winning a national championship. And that's fact until you show me I'm wrong. How you like that? And I'd absolutely love to say that Ohio State should be the odds-on favorite. I think in most years they would be. But the difference is Carson Beck. Carson Beck comes back for his senior year. I didn't have high hopes for that dude to be a very good quarterback. He was excellent last year. Took him a little while to get going. I think it took them a little while to kind of give him the full reins. But man, once he got cooking, he looks great. He's fluid. He's tall. He's smart. He's really good. And not just that, you know, Ohio State, the team, the big spender, the team that went out and got everybody. Georgia did the exact same thing in the exact same way because Ryan Day and Kirby Smart are both excellent, smart coaches and leaders of organizations. Georgia brought in 7 transfer players at positions of need, and they were all very good players. They brought in Travis Etienne's little brother from Florida, excellent running back. They got a sweet tight end out of Stanford, all Pac-12 kid, to try and come in and fill the Brock Bowers role. This kid actually runs the ball too. I think he had 10 rushes last year, which is a lot from a tight end for over 100 yards. So kind of a similar style. Definitely not going to be as good as Brock Bowers. But not just that. They got an awesome defensive lineman, Xavier McLeod from South Carolina. They got a huge wide receiver from Miami. Dude's like 6'4.5". They got another one from USC. The best wide receiver they got is actually from Vandy, London Humphreys. Another 6'3" kid who's just fantastic. And they absolutely upgraded just the way the Buckeyes did. Not quite to the quality of talent, but that's just because they lost on Caleb Downs. If they'd have beat the Buckeyes on Caleb Downs, they would have the better transfer portal class, in my opinion. So Georgia definitely deserves the nod, but it is that close. It's just Carson Beck and Will Howard. The only difference right there. Some people say that's a huge difference. I don't think so. I think Will Howard is going to do excellent for Ohio State in his 1 year here. And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback run, crappier offensive line, better for everybody. Let's get it done like that. I'm happy. Let's roll. And I hate to talk about the Super Bowl because I don't like the Chiefs and I can't stand the 49ers, but we all love Nick Bosa and Chase Young. So, of course, we were rooting for them. And I was listening to something this morning and some Super Bowl stuff came up. I didn't want to hear anything about it. But one of the guys said he thinks Chase Young is going to be on another team next year for a smaller deal. And it just blows my mind. And it got me to thinking, who is the last guy that was as excellent at Ohio State as Chase Young was, that didn't really transition into the NFL and have the career that you thought he was going to have? I'd love to know what you guys think. So I thought, my brother and I differed on this, okay? I thought Chase Young was going to set the NFL on fire as much as he did at Ohio State. Watching him was like, it was just a dream come true. He is the most disruptive defensive player we may have ever seen at Ohio State. I think he is. You know, you look at some of those games his junior year, and he would, wherever he would line up, would totally dictate what the offense did. And it was so obvious. It was utterly dominating. He was so dominant. He was so scary. And I thought that he would be that in the NFL, and he's just not. And, you know, we've all seen the clips, I'm sure you've seen it by now too, of the lack of effort plays. And he's got quite a bit of them. And I never saw that coming. And I know he had a knee injury. But the point is, he is not in the NFL what I thought he would be in the NFL. And I want to know if you guys can think of anyone that quite compares to that. But there's a caveat. Let's try and keep injuries out of it, right? We're not going to talk about Katzenmoyer. You know, he hurt his neck. And there's a whole slew of them that have had injuries, and that's what's hampered their careers. But, you know, think of Vernon Gholston. But Vernon Gholston wasn't dominant like Chase Young was dominant. I thought he'd be better in the NFL when the Jets drafted him, I think 4th overall. I definitely thought he'd be better. We knew that was a reach for that draft pick because Vern had a really good year at the back half of, I think his last year at Ohio State. But before that, he was just an amazing looking football player. I mean, the guy's one of the greatest looking football players you'll ever see. But that Michigan game, that one year where he just absolutely annihilated them, really propelled him to that number 4 spot. And it's a classic Jets draft pick. It was a reach. It was a stretch. And as we talk about the Jets, they drafted Devin Smith as well. Devin's also on my list. I do think Devin had some injury issues, but I thought Devin was going to be awesome. As far as the deep ball goes, in the last, 20 years, I think Devin Smith was the best deep ball catcher we've had. The way he could adjust in the air for the ball, high point the ball. I mean, he just had an amazing knack for that. Also, Northeast Ohio kid, Akron kid, Devin Smith. My guy was really sweet to my nephew when he was at one of his high school games, so I always liked Devin a lot. And speaking of my nephews, shout out to my little nephews who finished 1st and 3rd in their wrestling tournament. Love you guys. But is there a Buckeye that you can think of I'm not thinking of? Beanie was a little disappointing. His career was disappointing, but that was injuries. He was excellent. We could go on and on. Mike Doss. I thought Mike Doss would be 10 years kicking butt. And for the Colts, and then Bob Sanders ended up being the guy that kind of was the standout on that defense after they kind of both started out at the same time, as I remember. And Doss had some great years really early on. But, you know, there's a slew that didn't have careers we thought they'd have, but nobody to the level of Chase Young for me. I'd like to know about you. David Boston. I thought David Boston would be dominant. I'm dating myself now. I think you guys are probably my age watching this show, but I bet you agreed with David Boston. Now, there's a guy who could play and look the part. Amazing. The guns on David Boston went for days, buddy. Let's go to Buckeye coaching news. So, Chip Kelly, last 4 years, total offense at UCLA. They finished 61st last season. The year before that, 11th. Year before that, 13th. Year before that, 29th. So a rough year last year. Some really awesome years with Charbonneau and DTR, finishing 13th and 11th in the country. But I wanted to look at plays per game. You know, offensive plays per game. We talked about it the other day. The Buckeyes went from 78 offensive plays a game in 2018 and on a trend line straight down to 62 plays per game last year. Down every year a couple plays. A disturbing trend, and it was not related to the clock change. I mean, a little bit was, but everybody lost like 1.8 plays a game last year offensively because of the clock change. But the Buckeyes trend line has been going on since 2018 straight down. So I wanted to check chips. So we go from 2022 to 74 plays a game, and then 70, 72, 72. So Chip's getting 10 more plays a game out of his offense. Total yards, starting in 2020, 455, 463, 503, 427. And his pass-to-run ratio, when his offense is running the way he wants it to run, is about 60-40 run to pass. As we know, Ryan Day, when his offense is humming, it's usually closer to 50-50 or leaning towards the heavy pass favorite. So it's going to be really interesting to see the way he blends the run game with Ryan's pass game. And it's going to be really interesting to see which way they go, if they're favoring one, if they're totally balanced. But the most important thing is more opportunities, just like recruiting. More opportunities to fail is more opportunities to win. So 74 plays a game would be excellent, and a 12-play improvement on the game, and that would be fantastic. Looking really forward to seeing that. James Laurinaitis. Right before I got on this podcast, I saw somebody who I follow who is a former college football beat reporter tweet out that James Laurinaitis is currently interviewing with the Cleveland Browns. By the time you see this, you either know that that's fact, or you're going to look at me like I'm a moron for believing it. I'm not saying I believe it, but I will say this. Nobody saw the Ross Bjork for AD hire coming. This guy had it 24 hours before it broke from Pete Thamel. I'm just saying. He had it. I know he had it. I saw it. All right, he didn't say his name, but he spelled it out there. He had it. I promise you. He did have it. Just didn't say his name, but he gave his whole career bio, right? He had it. Is he right about this? Is James Laurinaitis interviewing with the Browns? Are they taking our James? Listen, if he's going to go to the NFL, I'd love him to go to the Browns, but I want James to stay in Columbus. I want him to be the damn linebacker coach. He deserves it. He deserves it. He's our guy. He loves the Buckeyes. Super Bowl Sunday, he didn't hang out with his buddies, okay? He wasn't going out drinking beers. He had the team to his house. All the linebackers were at his house, including Joey Velasquez. Shout out Joey. Transfers from Michigan back home. He's from Columbus. He went to Columbus DeSales. Transfers back to Columbus from Michigan after graduating from Michigan. Got his degree. Now he's joined the team as a preferred walk-on. So we look for him to probably not play a lot of football at Ohio State, but nonetheless, it's a shot across the border. Thank you, Joey. We appreciate that. Any kind of ammo we can get, we'll take, and kudos to you. I looked at Joey. He's a baseball player as well. I don't think he's playing baseball in Columbus, but he's a homeboy. He made a bad decision, okay? He's come home. He's made up for it. Thank you, Joey. Welcome home. And where was I? So, yeah, totally forgot my train of thought. To James Laurinaitis. So, listen. He had all the team over. He had the defensive line over. He had Larry Johnson over. Super Bowl Sunday. That's the kind of dude he is. I mean, he is about this gig. This is what he's into now. Just like when he was into football, he was the most tremendous football player on the field in his mind and almost anybody who was watching. Like, that's who he is. When he's in the gym, he's the strongest guy in the world, and he's going to outwork you in the gym. Like, no matter what he does, he's going to outwork you. We know he's smart. We know people love him. We know he's tuned in. How could he possibly fail? He couldn't. He wouldn't. But are they going to give him the job? Or are they going to let him slip away? I'll be salty if he slips away, because he'll only slip away because you let him. You could have given him the job. However, I do understand that it makes more sense to bring in a defensive line coach who can work directly with Larry and be his natural successor when Larry moves on. It is very important for recruiting to have somebody in that role who is meeting these recruits from day one, developing a relationship with them so that they can stop, everybody can stop negatively affecting negatively recruiting against Larry, because all they're saying to these recruits, and it almost worked with Edric, that he was going to retire. So they scare recruits off by using that Larry's going to retire, you're going to go there, he's going to leave, and you can't transfer when an assistant coach retires. So it's been working. It's worked on some in the past. They continue to use it heavy, and someday they're going to be right. He is going to retire. So you want to try and be preemptive about that. Get that defensive line assistant coach in there, meet the guys, keep a class intact. Losing an entire defensive line class or half of one would be devastating, particularly when, let's be honest, the defensive line recruiting has not been fantastic lately. And it's definitely an area where we need some depth. So getting Edric Houston was huge. It was massive. Getting Dominic Kirks in was huge. It was massive. They disrespected him. They should have been in on him earlier, I thought. But hey, all's well that ends well. Dominic Kirks from Paynesville, Ohio boy, is now at Ohio State. But yes, I understand it's probably the smarter move to go with the defensive line successor. But I'll be upset if we lose Laurinaitis. I really will be. Chris Henry Jr., son of the late, great wide receiver Chris Henry from the Bengals. Of course, he's being raised by Pac-Man Jones. I'm sure you've all heard of this. So Chris Henry Jr. being raised by Pac-Man Jones. I believe he has a sister that's at Ohio State. He's committed to Ohio State. And we're going to hope that that sister can kind of keep him in, because Pac-Man's moving him out to Southern California. And Chris Henry Jr. is now going to be attending Mater Dei. Mater Dei is a football factory that has produced a gazillion NFL guys, and also kind of is a pipeline to USC and Stanford. So the best of the best football players go to USC, and the really good football players who are very smart go to Stanford or Cal, and they put a bunch of them out there. They got a wide receiver right now that has an offer from Alabama. I mean, they're just loaded. Obviously, if you've been to Southern California, you know what the weather's like. It's not a joke. It's not nonsense. It really is that nice all the time. And let's just hope it's not enough to kind of pull him in and keep him out there, because this dude is legit. And, hey, this is why you have a guy like Hartline, man. This is why you have a guy like Hartline and a guy like Laurinaitis. You have a guy like that making bonds with young men, and that stuff matters. So good luck to Chris Henry Jr. out at Mater Dei. I hope our Ohio boy represents out there against the California kids, and I hope he comes back home when he's done, just like Joey Velasquez came home from Michigan. Thank you, Joey. So the last part of the show, we're going to go with my national recruiting update. Who's up? Who's down? We'll start with up. Ohio State has the highest player rating and has 7 commits. That's very good. We don't need to go by where they're ranked in the class yet. That doesn't mean much. We're going to go by how many recruits you have, which is very good. You want to be rolling a bit right now. 7's a great number right now. Not a good number right now. But the player average at Ohio State is the highest in the country, and that is the most important. So, Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame might have more commits than anybody in the country right now, and they got a pretty high rating, average player rating. They're doing very well. LSU is doing tremendous. LSU has a great Louisiana class this cycle, and they are killing it in East Texas. So LSU, Brian Kelly's doing great. I think LSU, we'll talk about the odds later. I think LSU is a great bet. LSU with, they got Blake Baker, defensive coordinator from Missouri, to come in this year. He was excellent at Missouri. And I think he's going to do for LSU's defense in year one what Jim Knowles did for Ohio State's, and that is shore it up enough to make it good enough for their quarterback, Nussmeier, who's got some experience, to come in and take that offense, score, not as much as they're going to score with Daniels, but keep them in games. I think LSU is maybe a surprise team that's going to get one of those top 4 playoff spots. That's where I'm putting my money. So add that to a fantastic class, and Brian Kelly's killing it. He's killing it down there. He's going to be really good at LSU, guys. I'm telling you, he really is. I hate him as much as the next guy. He's a red ass. He's annoying. He tries to fit. He dances. He dances with recruits. Please tell me I've got a video of that to play for you. He dances with recruits, man. Clemson is back in the mix. They got 11 recruits right now and a very high average player rating. Clemson is actually doing good. Dabo, despite college football coaches are the most stubborn people in the world. I mean, this guy has now dug his heels in to the no transfer portal motto that his own fans, the Clemson fans, want to get rid of their coach, a coach who not long ago was like running the sport, and people were saying when Saban retires, will Alabama be able to pull Dabo out of Clemson? I'm telling you right now, if they would have pulled Dabo out of Clemson this year, there would have been fires in Tuscaloosa, because the opinion nationally about Dabo Swinney has just done a 180 like so fast. I can't even believe it. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. A guy with that, who reached that level of success, that just everybody turned on him, all because he's so stubborn about the transfer portal. It's unbelievable, but he's doing excellent. He had a good class last year. He had my favorite player of the class, and Sammy Brown, a linebacker from Georgia. Watch a highlight on Sammy Brown. Holy guacamole. But Clemson is doing great, high average. Georgia, Oregon, and FSU have a low number of players, but a very high average. And, of course, we know Georgia, Oregon, and FSU, believe it or not, man, these guys recruit. They recruit good. I don't know why anybody would want to go there. I really don't. It's close to Alabama. Just go to Alabama. I don't like Florida State. I don't like their fans. I don't like their university. I don't like anything about Florida State. Again, in the superlatives. I had a bad experience with their fans once. I was at a Pitt game with my brother. So we went to Pitt, Jameis Winston's freshman year, and Florida State was traveling to Pitt. So we drove over to Pitt to watch Florida State play. Why not, right? Get kind of a new blood, blue blood kind of program. Let's go watch them play. So we drove over to Pitt, watched them play, and there was a ton of Florida State fans who made the trip from Tallahassee to come watch them in Pitt. I thought that's cool. That reminds me of Buckeye fans. We go everywhere to support their team. They were just jerks, man. They were total jerks. We sat by one. They threw a T-shirt. They threw a T-shirt into the stands, and this guy in front of me was a Florida State fan. He jumps up and he kind of grabs it. Well, I grabbed it. I jumped and I grabbed the shirt. I won, right? He got so mad, like they were talking to us, like they wanted to scrap. And then my brother stood up and they changed their mind real fast. But just not good dudes. I don't like Florida State. And ever since then, I think is why I've got this attitude towards them. But I like Mike Norvell. I think he's a hell of a coach. But I don't wish any success on Florida State, even though I would have put them in the playoff last year, because we don't need to rehash that argument. So Florida State, Georgia, Oregon, Clemson, Notre Dame, LSU, Ohio State, stock up, recruiting well. Wisconsin is an interesting one. Wisconsin has 7 recruits in, so they're getting a lot of guys right now. That's good. Fickle's doing good there. They only have 1 blue chip, so they have 6 3-stars. And I don't know why they can't do better, man. I really don't. I don't know why they can't recruit better at Wisconsin. Is it just it's been so long since they've been good nationally that players this age don't like Wisconsin seems like Illinois to them? I don't know, but I miss the days of Wisconsin being another kind of powerful Big Ten team that could kind of represent that area. I got some family there, and I've kind of always had an affinity for a little bit of Wisconsin. I don't hate them like I hate a lot of Big Ten teams. So that might skew my judgment on Wisconsin, and I fully recognize that, and that's okay. Now, let's talk about the stock down. Florida, horrible. Alabama, 2 recruits, horrible. Miami, horrible. After an amazing recruiting class last season, they did. Cristobal Absolutely destroyed it. And you would think, I don't know what he does to hide from these players that his career record is 74 and 73. He's not hiding it from me. Mario Cristobal can't coach, but man, can he recruit. I mean, not just that, but that. And they're pumping it in to recruits down there. Not just transfer portal guys, but they're paying a lot outright to get guys in there. But let's not discount it. He did it at Oregon too. Also a place that, writes a lot of checks. But Mario Cristobal can recruit. He just can't coach. And that is why Miami is, no, they're not back. They're not coming back. That's over. Texas A&M, they're down. But Mike Elko in his first year, and they just brought in 23. That's from the other day. 23 transfers at Texas A&M. So, but stock down on the recruiting trail. The absolute worst, and this is going to surprise you, it's Michigan. Michigan has 3 recruits now. I think 2 of them are 3-stars. And then USC. USC has 1 recruit in their class. 1 recruit. Lincoln Riley, what are you doing, dude? This dude's pathetic. Now, the only recruit is the best quarterback in the class. Coincidentally, I think Ryan Day could have stole him if he wanted to, but he's not going to. And that's, what's his name? Juju something. I forget his last name. But anyhow, stock downs are Alabama, Michigan, Miami, Texas A&M, Florida, and USC. All big-time stock down. But we know where our guys are at, and we know what they got to do to get the number 1 class in the country, and that is quit signing 21 and 22 guy classes. And that's our show for today. Thank you for joining me. Just a little reminder, if you're new here, because I'm new here, we're entering week number 3 of the show. I'm a fan. I'm not a fake beat reporter. I'm not a fake insider. I'm just a college football fan who likes coming home from work and talking college football. And I decided to do it right here with you. So if you like it, please subscribe. Please hit like. It makes me feel good. And then we keep doing it because I'm not doing this for money. I'm just doing it for fun. It's my hobby. I've said, okay, doing it for money isn't an option, right? But I'm just doing it for fun. And I would love it if you hit like or subscribe because then it makes me feel like you guys are having fun with me. And if you could comment, I always reply to those comments, and it kind of gives me a little bit of excitement. So that's cool. And next week, I've got some shirts coming in for Juck on Bucks. We are going to give away a shirt next week, one shirt every day next week. Every day that we go do a show, I think I'll do 4 shows next week. And this is what I'm going to do. I get a lot of comments about the wall behind me, okay? So I figured what I'll do is every day I'm going to change the position of something on that wall. You've got fair warning. Lock it in your brain. The first person to comment in the comments what has changed, I'll look at the end of the show. First person who got it, I will mail them a shirt. Well, I'll email you and then I'll mail you this shirt once you give me your address. You don't put your address in the comments. A lot of weirdos on the internet. So that's what we'll do. We'll do that next week. Hopefully those doggone shirts get in by then. But that's our show. Again, thank you so much for watching. My favorite time of the day. Congratulations to my nephews. Love you guys. I'll see you guys later. Juck on Bucks. We're out of here.